Nishafa, and I am the Communications Director for Congresswoman Cori Bush, and tonight I will be moderating this evening's Town Hall. Thank you so much for joining us. This evening we'll be discussing all the work that the Congresswoman and our team have been doing in Congress for the people of Missouri's 1st District. So before we hear from our Congresswoman, I just want to lay out how this evening's Town Hall is going to work. This is an interactive forum, so we'll be taking many questions from participants, as many as we possibly can during this event. If we do not get to your question, please know that you will still get a response from our team following after the event. We're going to get through as many as we can. If you have a question, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time. Again, that's *3, and then you will be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff to deliver your question. They'll take down your name and your question, and then those submitted questions will be read by myself, the moderator, throughout this event, and you'll hear answers from the Congresswoman as well as from some of our legislative and district staff that are on the line. Just so folks are aware, some of the folks that are on the line today, in addition to the Congresswoman, are our District Director, Rachel Nord-Rousseau, and Outreach Representative, Joy Benton, our Legislative Director, Kate Kelly, and our Legislative Counsel and Policy Advisor, Samir Jaywant. So we're going to do our best, again, to answer as many questions as we possibly can this evening. We do, again, receive a lot of questions on our live event, so if we are not able to address your question, you can leave a voicemail after the event. You can call us directly at 314-955-9980. Again, that's 314-955-9980. Or, of course, you can just leave your question, press *3, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So, again, we're going to go ahead and get started. 2 more things I want to highlight. If you're interested in subscribing to our newsletter for more updates, please press *6 at any time throughout this call. And just as a reminder, this town hall is being held through the Congresswoman's official capacity, so we are unable to answer any campaign-related questions during this event. So again, we're going to go ahead and get started. And so again, to wrap it up, press *3 to ask a question, press *6 to subscribe to our newsletter. And before we turn it over to the Congresswoman, we want to hear from you. So we're going to ask a really quick poll question. If you're on the phone, know you can vote by pressing the corresponding number on your keypad. So our first poll question is, what issue are you most interested in hearing about during this town hall? Press 1 for housing and labor justice. Press 2 for public safety. Press 3 for ceasefire in occupied Palestine. Press 4 for reproductive health and constitutional gender equity. Press 5 for judicial reform. Press 6 for compensation for victims of radioactive waste. To repeat, press 1 for housing and labor justice. Press 2 for public safety. Press 3 for ceasefire in occupied Palestine. Press 4 for reproductive health and constitutional gender equality. Press 5 for judicial reform. Press 6 for compensation for victims of radioactive waste. Thank you. And now it is both my honor and privilege to turn it over to our Congresswoman, Congresswoman Cori Bush, for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Marina, and good evening, everyone. This is your Congresswoman, Cori Bush, and I want to start by thanking you all for joining me tonight. Thank you for joining me and the team. It is always a pleasure to connect with the people of Missouri's 1st District, to listen to your concerns, and to share updates on the work we've been doing in Congress. And let me just say, there is so much to cover tonight, from funding for local projects to critical issues impacting our community and beyond. So let's get started, and don't forget that you can ask a question at any time by pressing *3 on your keypad. That's *3 on your keypad. So let's get into it. I am proud that throughout my tenure in Congress, my office and I have delivered over $2 billion in investments for our community. I'm sure many of you have seen the billboards across town, and I want each of each and every one of you to know that this funding is having meaningful impacts for families, for students and children, for our elders, and for our community leaders, our health centers, hospitals, nonprofits, our small businesses, our veterans, educators, public schools, universities, and so much more. It's important for me that our community knows exactly what this funding is, who it's impacting, and where it's going. We've brought home $1.5 billion alone from the American Rescue Plan Act. Much of this funding has gone into direct investments in violence prevention programs, rental and utility assistance, public education, bridging gaps in access to health care, improving traffic and mobility options, economic revitalization, help for our small businesses and restaurants to stay afloat after the pandemic, the expanded child tax credit, among other initiatives. So we've also gotten $16 million for sustainable housing initiatives through the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as massive funding for solar energy enhancements in St. Louis City. Through the Department of Transportation raised grants, we secured over $33 million for both the reconstruction of West Florissant Avenue and for the Brick Line Greenway project. More than $100 million has been secured in disaster relief following the devastating flooding in July 2022 that I know everybody remembers, and over $260 million in federal awards has gone on to support medical research, housing, health care, Head Starts, and let me tell you, just so much more. All of these programs are vital for folks and institutions across our district. A large chunk of this funding is the over $41 million in community project funding that I have secured specifically for our district to support those in our community doing the work on important issues like homelessness prevention, public health, youth engagement, environmental justice, and economic revitalization projects across St. Louis. Just this past year, we secured $13.7 million in community project funding for Missouri's 1st District as part of the 2024 appropriation cycle. These funds support life-saving and essential programs that make a real difference in the lives of our residents. And so I'm proud of the meaningful change we are building towards for our community. I'd also like to outline a few of the issues of top concern for St. Louis that my office and I are working on tirelessly. An issue that is top of mind for so many of you is gun violence and public safety. I firmly believe that public safety is a matter of public health, which is why I have been advocating for policies that address public safety through a public health lens. Recently, I reintroduced the Helping Families Heal Act, groundbreaking legislation aimed at expanding mental health services for communities harmed by police violence. This legislation is particularly meaningful to me as I worked closely with Mike Brown's mother, Leslie McSpadden, to create it. We must never forget the trauma our families and communities endure upon losing a loved one or a child to police brutality. This bill ensures that we never lose sight of that and that we invest in families harmed by policing and do everything we can to prevent this violence from happening in the first place and help them heal. And no, this is not an anti-police bill. It's not a defund the police bill. This is a help people who need help bill. Additionally, I am the proud sponsor of the People's Response Act, which would create a division of community safety within the Department of Health and Human Services. This division would research and fund life-saving alternatives to incarceration and policing, providing funding opportunities for community-based, non-carceral responses to public safety. We have already seen investments made in initiatives that the PRA seeks to fund through violence interruption programs, community violence initiatives, diversion programs, and more. I was glad to support passage of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act in 2022, the first meaningful gun safety law in 30 years. This legislation, which includes $250 million in funding for community-based violence prevention initiatives. Just this week, I was proud to support the City of St. Louis's proposal to make use of this federal funding, and I look forward to working together to do just that. We also recently delivered a $3 million check to Power for STL's Brick Healing Center. I don't know if you saw those, the posts on social media as well as all of the news, which the Brick Healing Center will serve to bridge the fatal gaps in healthcare and provide healing for those at risk for violence and overdose. This is life-saving work, and I am so excited to be working in community and for community to support our region's efforts to build a safer St. Louis. This work will never stop until we end the cycles of violence and trauma. I am also very actively engaged in the safety of those all around the world facing violence. As we continue to witness the devastation and genocide unfolding in Gaza, I remain a steadfast voice for peace in the often warmongering halls of Congress. Yes, warmongering halls. As the sponsor of the Ceasefire Now resolution in Congress, I have been calling on our government to facilitate an immediate ceasefire since October 2023. With nearly 100 members of Congress now joining that call, St. Louis City's Board of Aldermen passing their own ceasefire resolution unanimously, and even President Biden putting forward a proposed ceasefire plan just last week, our movement continues to gain momentum. Yet, despite these recent and growing successes, we have already seen too much loss. Over 40,000 Palestinian and 1,100 Israeli civilians have been killed, and nearly all of Gaza has been destroyed. Countless more Palestinian people are sick, injured, starving, and have no place to live. I am working in Congress to end this genocide and increase humanitarian aid, safely release the hostages and those arbitrarily detained, and leverage diplomacy as a means of achieving peace and stability in the region. We need to keep Israelis safe, Palestinians safe. We need to fight anti-Palestinian hate, fight anti-Semitism, and we can do all of that at the same time. Our tax dollars should not be going towards bombs and missiles that kill people abroad, babies, innocent family members. That money should be redirected into investments right here in St. Louis that save lives. And this stands across issues from St. Louis to Gaza to the atrocities happening in Haiti, in Sudan, in Congo, in India, Pakistan, Central America, and in places all across our world. I will always be for peace, and I will always be against war, for humanity, and I will be against genocide, for humanity, which means every human. I will continue to do everything in my power to help facilitate a permanent and a lasting ceasefire in Gaza. Before I continue, to folks who are just joining on, as a reminder as well, if you would like to ask a question, press *3. If you would like to subscribe to our newsletter, which that is something you want to do so you can stay up to date, please press *6. Okay, now another issue that is of incredible importance to us here in St. Louis is abortion access. As someone who has had abortions and someone who has had high-risk pregnancies, reproductive rights and access to basic health care is very personal to me. Abortion access is severely restricted in Missouri. Women, pregnant people in our district are forced to access medication abortion online or travel to other states just to access basic health care. And so I'm going to be frank about this. We are facing unprecedented challenges to our autonomy, and it is imperative that we stand strong. Anti-abortion activists didn't stop with overturning Roe v. Wade. For them, that was just a start. We have to be vigilant against these attacks. They have done away with legal abortion in states like Missouri, but they aren't satisfied with that. They will stop at nothing until they get a federal abortion ban that makes it illegal everywhere, so no crossing state lines. One of the ways they are trying that is through the Comstock Act. It's a zombie, I call it a zombie statute. It was passed in 1873, and it is the GOP's workaround to end the right to abortion care, not just for medication abortion, but for every type of abortion procedure. I'm working with several of my colleagues to introduce a bill to repeal the Comstock Act so that Donald Trump and his MAGA extremist allies in Congress are never able to use this statute to enact a nationwide abortion ban. I am also actively supporting legislation that protects and expands access to reproductive health service. So I have introduced the Protecting Access to Medication Abortion Act, which ensures that patients can receive abortion pills without an in-person dispensing requirement, and another bill to establish the Office of Sexual and Reproductive Health and Well-Being within the Department of Health and Human Services. Why we don't have that already, I don't know, but we're going to push to get that to make sure that we generate a whole of government approach to protecting and affirming sexual and reproductive rights and for other purposes. Our fight is far from over, but together we can ensure that every person in Missouri and the rest of the country has the right to make decisions about their own bodies. Another thing I'm doing to protect reproductive rights and expand the basic protections of the U.S. Constitution is working to finalize the Equal Rights Amendment. Yes, the ERA still not done. So it's just 24 words, you all. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. It's a simple amendment that puts people like me and you, my constituents in St. Louis, puts us in the Constitution where we belong. 100 years we've been pushing for the Equal Rights Amendment. Last year, I participated in the centennial commemoration of the ERA. It's been 100 years since it was first introduced, actually on my birthday. It will turn, July 21st, it will turn 101. And it's long past time we get it over the finish line. In order to do that, I have introduced H.J. Res 82 alongside Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York to instruct the archivists of the United States to certify and publish the ERA as the 28th Amendment to the Constitution. It's one signature. I also co-founded the first ever congressional caucus for the ERA. 100 years, never had a caucus for the ERA where we can do the actual work to mobilize, to have a home for the Equal Rights Amendment work. So through this caucus, I organize and educate other members of Congress to support constitutional gender equality and the ERA. It's been so successful, let me say, that it's already the 5th largest caucus in Congress out of hundreds of caucuses. We're the 5th largest, and we're a little over a year old. So I will continue to advocate for the ERA because without it, we cannot achieve reproductive freedom. We can't achieve LGBTQ plus rights or equal wages, violence prevention, healthcare equity, and more. All of that is on the table. In addition to constitutional reform, as a member of the House Judiciary Committee, I have been vocal about the need for accountability in our judiciary. Recently, I called for the resignation of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, and last April, I demanded the impeachment of Justice Clarence Thomas following a series of ethics scandals. We are witnessing a time in which nearly every week a new scandal breaks out in the news, and many of us have had enough of it. Last year, I introduced the Judiciary Act of 2023 alongside several of my colleagues. This legislation aims to expand the Supreme Court by adding 4 seats, creating a 13-justice bench to ensure a more balanced and fair judiciary. Our work continues, and I remain committed to fighting for a judiciary that upholds justice and integrity. If members of Congress have to uphold a code of ethics, so should the Supreme Court justices. Since my tenure in Congress began, I have worked tirelessly to support the needs of our unhoused neighbors and increase the affordable housing stock. As one of the leaders of the Congressional Caucus on Homelessness, I know firsthand the importance of educating other members of Congress about the housing issues that plague St. Louis. This month, the Supreme Court is expected to make a decision on a critical case, Grants Pass v. Johnson, which would allow cities to jail. It would allow cities to ticket or fine people for sleeping outside when there are no other options. This is nuts. This is unacceptable. That's why I led 18 of my colleagues in sending a bicameral amicus brief to the Supreme Court expressing our vehement opposition to criminalizing unhoused people, telling them they cannot have a blanket, they can't sleep outside. Absolutely unbelievable. In April, the Homelessness Caucus led over 80 of our colleagues in a letter to House Appropriations leaders advocating for robust federal funding in homeless prevention programs and wraparound support services for fiscal year 2025. This includes fully funding public housing, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, $3 billion for emergency rental assistance, and so much more. The need for housing is universal, but access to housing is limited to those who can afford it. That's why I introduced the historic Unhoused Bill of Rights, a resolution declaring unalienable rights for unhoused persons and providing solutions to end this crisis by 2027. This comprehensive legislation describes the rights that should be extended to people living without homes, such as the right to exist in public without fear of harassment, without fear of surveillance or arrest. Out of the $13.7 million in community project funding that I delivered, over $4.5 million went to housing-related projects across our district. In February, I announced over $17 million in homelessness assistance funding for St. Louis City and County through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. You all, we are making strides, but there is so much more work to do. My work in Congress is to achieve housing justice for all, and all means all. Just as I fight for housing, I fight for our workers too. I am proud to stand with our workers and our labor unions. In February, I urged the Anheuser-Busch companies and the president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, to reach a fair contract that promotes job security and good retirement benefits. I'm pleased to report that these negotiations, they ended successfully. I also stood with the residents and staff of Northview Village after the sudden closure of the largest nursing home in St. Louis City. I have urged HHS Secretary Becerra to launch a formal investigation and accountability for Northview and its ownership, and I'm pleased that we are starting to see some progress towards doing that. Just last week, I also met with more than a dozen of our union leaders to discuss issues of relevance for their workers. Our workers deserve fair treatment and support, and I will continue to stand in solidarity with them and fight for the dignity and respect they deserve. Before I continue again, to folks who are just joining, as a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, press *3. If you would like to subscribe to our newsletter where you can stay up to date, please press *6. Now, turning to other local issues, I have heard loud and clear from folks all across St. Louis who have frustrations and concerns with mail delivery. And I know some folks are on the call going, Our office has heard from many of our constituents who are receiving essential documents such as utility bills, Social Security checks, and federal benefits documents weeks after their bills are due, and in some instances, documents are not delivered at all. We have entire neighborhoods reporting they haven't received mail for a full week at a time. These delays have a devastating impact on our seniors and folks with disabilities who rely on the timely delivery of these documents and oftentimes medication. In response to ongoing delays and disruptions in the St. Louis Postal Service, I wrote to Postmaster General Louis DeJoy requesting immediate action to address these issues. Reliable postal service is critical for our community, and I am committed to ensuring its effectiveness. And I will say, our postal workers are working hard. They're doing everything that they can. So we want to support them as they do their best. Sometimes they're going out on their route at 9, 10 o'clock at night. We want to do what we can to support them. Another local issue concerning our communities was the closure of the Walgreens stores on Grand Boulevard. Following the decision to close its store on Grand Boulevard after 2 other closures last year, I sent a letter to Walgreens CEO Tim Wentworth urging the company to reverse its decision. I worked with our local pharmacies to ensure that there was no gap in pharmacy services for our most vulnerable residents, particularly those without homes. These closures exacerbate the issue of pharmacy deserts in our district, and I will continue to advocate for access to essential services for all residents. Equitable access to health care in St. Louis means holding industry leaders like Walgreens accountable. Today, moving on to another subject, Speaker Johnson sent the House home without bringing RICA to the floor. By allowing this legislation to pass, by allowing this date to pass, Speaker Johnson spits in the faces of those in Missouri and across our country harmed by the federal government's reckless decisions. Though it is infuriating, this will not stop us from seeking compensation for those affected families. Last week, through persistent questioning in a hearing before the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, which is my committee, I got Secretary Granholm to publicly support the reauthorization of RICA, which is the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, acknowledging the United States' responsibility for radiation exposure from the Manhattan Project. I recently held a press conference with my colleagues calling on Speaker Johnson to bring RICA to the floor. Despite not receiving a response from the Speaker, I have continued to advocate for Missouri to be included in RICA. Many other states are included, but Missouri has never been. I have reached out across party lines. I am working with Senator Josh Hawley to ensure our constituents receive the compensation they deserve. Where we can work together, we must work together. RICA expires this Friday, and it is unacceptable that victims go without the health care and compensation they deserve just because of House leadership's inability to govern. This is a solidly bipartisan issue, and there should be absolutely no reason to hold it up. As many of you know, despite having a uranium processing facility in downtown St. Louis for the Manhattan Project, the people exposed here have never been included in RICA. This is why a simple extension of the existing program is insufficient. I am fighting so that it can be expanded to cover everyone impacted, including Missourians, including those right here in St. Louis. This is just basic justice. If your government exposes you to toxic material that makes you sick, they should make you whole. It's simple as that. And we are also working to do something similar with those who have been impacted at Pruitt-Igoe many years ago. So that is happening also. Lastly, I am so proud of our Constituent Services Program. One of the key aspects of a congressional office is to provide a variety of free federal services, from handling passport problems to navigating the United States Postal Service to helping with Social Security and Medicare assistance, immigration issues, and grant and SBA, the small business, those opportunities for nonprofits and small business owners. My office is connecting our residents with the critical resources and services they need. Our office has resolved over 4,000 cases, 4,000, including 1,083 cases resolved in 2023 alone. Our outreach representatives have attended over 800 meetings just since 2022. Our team is behind the scenes supporting constituents, helping our elders move from one building to another when they need it, doing house calls as necessary, supporting people in the aftermath of major disasters or tragic events, which actually looks like being on the ground, myself and my staff walking through sludge, knocking on doors, trying to make sure that our community members are safe, attending community meetings and town halls, community events, and neighborhood association meetings, as well as meetings with organizations in the district office. Soon you'll hear from our district director, Rachel Nord-Rousseau, who will share some more insights into what our office has to offer for all of you. But know this is your congressional team, St. Louis, your team. If you have a case, need help navigating federal agencies, have an event, or you want to schedule a meeting, my incredible team is here to help. Now, with that, I want to thank you all for your continued support and for your engagement. It is your voices that guide my work in Congress. Together, we are making progress on critical issues from community funding and public safety to housing and workers' rights. But our work is far from over. I am committed to fighting for justice, fighting for equity, fighting for equality, and the well-being of every single person in Missouri's 1st District. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for your trust and your support. Let's continue to do this work together to build a brighter future for everyone. And always remember, and you know what I'm about to say, always remember, your Congresswoman loves you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Bush. Before we continue, I just want to remind folks who may be joining in, again, if you would like to ask a question, please press *3. Again, that's *3. Or if you would like to subscribe to our newsletter, please press *6. Now, before we get to our questions, our district office is truly doing the most to help our St. Louis community navigate federal agencies and resolve cases. So I am happy to turn it over to the Congresswoman's District Director, Rachel Nord-Rousseau, who will be going over our constituent services. Rachel?
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for tonight's General Town Hall. My name is Rachel Nord-Rousseau, and I am the District Director for the Office of Congresswoman Cori Bush. Before we get into questions, I'm going to quickly lay out some of the services that our team can provide. Congressional constituent services refer to the assistance and support that our office provides to the constituents of Missouri's 1st District. These services are intended to help constituents navigate the federal government, access resources, get information, and address issues that may occur with federal agencies. As the Congresswoman mentioned, some of the common services our office provides include Social Security Administration, the Department of Veteran Affairs, the Internal Revenue Services, USCIS Immigration Service, United States Post Office, Department of State, Department of Corrections, etc. Some examples of how we have helped constituents include when a family member contacted our office after working to obtain a K-1 visa for her fiancé for over a year. Our office was able to work with USCIS Immigration Services and the Department of State to get a visa interview and an expedited K-1 visa. As of December 2023, the fiancé is in the United States and they are building their family. Another example is when a local small business had secured funding from a PPP loan in 2020, the SBA didn't forgive the second PPP loan, which caused the loan to default in the amount of $800,000 and had to be paid in full. even after the owner went through with the forgiveness process and submitted all required paperwork. The owner reached out to our office and we worked with the SBA to get the loan forgiven. The loan was forgiven January 22nd, 2024, and was recalled from collections January 29th, 2024. A final example is when, during last year's historic flooding, we had a constituent come in who had lost everything. On top of losing everything because of the flooding, this constituent was also dealing with the aftermath of an additional personal trauma. We were able to get this constituent immediate resources and mental health services that they needed. We were able to get him housed, and through this process, we found out that this constituent was a veteran. So we were able to get them connected with the VA and get him 46 years of back pay that was owed. These are just a few examples of how our office is able to help our community. And it's important to us that our services are accessible to our constituents. In partnership with the St. Louis City and County Public Libraries, our constituent services team operate out of 5 neighborhood service centers in the libraries across the district to assist our neighbors with navigating these federal agencies, immigration casework, and other local issues impacting the community. We are in St. Louis City Mondays and Wednesdays at the Walnut Park and Carpenter Libraries, and we are in St. Louis County Tuesday and Thursdays at the Lewis and Clark, Rock Road, and Natural Bridge Library branches. You can visit our website at bush.house.gov to find the hours and more information. And of course, you can always visit our main office downtown during regular business hours Monday through Friday. In addition to casework, our outreach team and representatives act as a liaison between the Congresswoman and her constituents. They attend community events, meetings, and forums to understand the concerns and needs of Missouri's 1st District. They establish and maintain relationships with local community organizations, businesses, and government agencies to collaborate on projects and address community needs effectively. They also gather feedback from constituents on policy issues, convey this information to the Congresswoman, and assist in advocating for specific legislative priorities. This information is vital to how we determine our legislative priorities. Our outreach team also organizes and coordinates events such as town hall meetings, roundtable discussions, and outreach programs to engage with constituents and raise awareness about important issues. Overall, outreach representatives play a vital role in ensuring that the Congresswoman remains connected to the community she serves and that constituents have a voice in the legislative process. Lastly, I want to make sure to note that our office can also provide constituents with information about federal programs, services, and resources that may be available to them. For example, federal job fairs or federal grant opportunities. We can also advocate on behalf of constituents with federal agencies or officials to address specific concerns or needs. Request and expedite on tax refunds, immigration application statuses, and assist with federal emergency management. Our office can also help constituents arrange tours of the U.S. Capitol and the White House and provide constituents with U.S. flags flown over the Capitol. Constituent services are an important part of Congresswoman Cori Bush's office and are intended to help ensure that her constituents receive assistance and support in dealing with the federal government. Please feel free to reach out to our office for assistance. Our office phone number is 314-955-9980 or 202-225-2406. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. So now we have concluded the updates portion of this town hall, and we're going to get to the moment we've all been waiting for with answering some questions. Again, as a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please press *3, or if you would like to subscribe to our newsletter for more information, please press *6. All righty, so our first question is from Rick. Why hasn't she spoken out against Hamas? Congresswoman?
Okay, thank you for this question, Rick. Let me say that I was horrified on October 7th when I woke up and saw the news that hundreds of people had been killed in Israel. My initial statement condemned their violence against civilians, and I have repeatedly condemned Hamas for their human rights violations since then, repeatedly. I co-sponsored and supported legislation by Congresswoman Haley Stevens that condemned Hamas and demanded the release of hostages. I recognize that some are trying to claim that I have never spoken on this issue, but it has been a consistent part of the remarks I have given on this issue for the last 8 months. Let me be clear. I condemn human rights violations and violators, no matter who they are, where they're from. I'm willing to condemn Hamas for their violence against civilians, and I have repeatedly. I'm also willing to condemn the Israeli government for their violence against civilians, and I have. Human rights violations never justify more human rights violations, and in order to live up to our stated ideals, our government must be consistent in our condemnation of violence against civilians and other human rights violations.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Our next question is from Kathy, who is writing in online. Kathy says, what can we do about guns and gun violence?
So we're doing a lot. A lot is happening. And, you know, this is an important question for our district. Of course, there is so much we can and must do about gun violence. It starts with passing laws that help get guns off the streets without criminalizing, you know, Black and brown communities wholesale. One example of this is what I spoke about earlier, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which I was proud to vote for. This important law, it expanded background check requirements and it broadened the scope of those existing restrictions on the firearm ownership. And it invested $500 million in community violence intervention programs. There's funding on the table for St. Louis right now. Let me say, the money is there. And Governor Parson and the Republican legislature are refusing to accept that funding to keep the people of St. Louis safe. It is unconscionable, but that is what we're facing. So this is not the first time that has happened, but it is Governor Parson and the Republican legislature who are refusing to accept that funding. The same way they refused to accept, remember years ago, the federal unemployment benefits, they refused to accept that too. This is a thing that keeps happening over and over again. But we know that these kinds of investments are so vital for our community. And I spoke about it earlier. You know, we need the community violence prevention programs and intervention programs, but we also need the summer jobs, the wraparound services. We need more mental health counselors, and we need to pay them. You know, we need to pay them. And we need community health workers. They're so important. There are programs that are where people can go and learn and get certified to become a community health worker. And it's why I spoke up earlier and I talked about the People's Response Act. That would actually put those resources where they need to be. That's like $13 billion in grant funding for programs that would provide the services that I just spoke about. And then in the American Rescue Plan, we delivered $498 million to St. Louis City alone. We went after that money. That money wasn't just handed down because we are a congressional district. No, they probably would have handed us significantly less. I know they would have actually, like other members of Congress received. But this was a direct investment in our city alongside $193 million for St. Louis County. The city's portion of this funding has gone to create the Office of Violence Prevention, which is overseeing, if you all heard of the Purple Shirts program, that's in unarmed first responders to respond to the 911 crisis calls. It adds the youth summer programs and also the guarantee basic income programs that many in St. Louis City apply for. These programs help us to address the root causes of violence, and I'm glad that these dollars are being put to use. Crime in St. Louis is at its lowest point on record, at least for for quite some time. And so I know we have a lot more work to do. We have so much to do to bridge the gaps, but this progress, we're going to continue to build upon it with additional investments. And ultimately, we know solutions to this problem, but what constantly stops us from taking these important steps is the Republican Party's obedience to the gun industry. And this is not even a partisan issue, but right now in Missouri, it is the Republicans who are holding us up from being able to have the transformative change that we need and we could use. They send thoughts and prayers after mass shootings, and then they do everything they can to flood our communities with the guns, distorting the Second Amendment. So until we end the Republicans' allegiance to the NRA over their constituents, we'll continue to see these same challenges in gun violence. But just know that public safety is a top priority for me.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Again, just as a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please press *3, and that we are going to try to get through as many questions as possible, but every question that we're unable to get to, know you will still get a response from our office. So moving on to our next question is from Norma. What is being done to help our veterans?
Oh, yes, our veterans. Norma, veterans issues are personal to me, and even if they weren't, we would still do the work, but many of my own family members are veterans. My husband is a veteran. My brother is a veteran, just so many of my family members. And I also have been proud to have veterans as staff members in my office. I was really proud last year to secure $900,000 for Perpetual Care Group Home for veterans. Perpetual Care was created to provide care to veterans who do not have, they don't have that support person who can assist with the activities of daily living and those life skills. So this new construction of this project that I helped secure the funding for, it'll include 20 beds, and each person will have their own private area. And this home is in St. Louis City. We actually just had a press conference right in front of that space where they broke ground. I was also proud to support the PACT Act, which expands the VA health care and the benefits for veterans who were exposed to burn pits, exposed to Agent Orange and other toxic substances. This law helps us provide generations of veterans and their survivors with the care and the benefits that they need and they deserve. The Military Construction and Veterans Affairs Appropriations Bill that passed in the House today, let me tell you, it threatens to cut vital federal funding that actually support our veterans in St. Louis and beyond. It is just so unbelievable what is happening. But thank you for the question, Norma.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Our next question is from Jason. What is being done to support jobs training and workforce development in St. Louis?
Okay, Jason. So one thing that we have going on, let me say, we haven't, I don't think we've put it out officially yet, but so I guess this is breaking news maybe. We have a federal jobs fair happening on July 13th between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. It will be held at the University of Missouri St. Louis, so it will be at UMSL. We will make sure that we give all the information, exactly what building and all of that. We'll make sure that that information goes out. And as a matter of fact, I'll let you all know on here on this call, but we'll make sure that we get it out. This job fair is, like you said, it's federal, so we're going to have like Secret Service, CIA, like those agencies that we don't often, just not often, we don't think about like, hey, maybe I could go work there. We need people from the community to be able to have those jobs. So it's the Postal Service, it's immigration, so we have there is a vast group of careers that people can walk into, and it'll all be housed in this one job fair. So more information will come out, but we will also provide opportunities for people to be able to work on resumes if they need that, as well as if people need other support to be able to be ready for the job fair. We want people to actually acquire these jobs, and so we're going to do whatever we can to help close the gaps, those things that can be barriers for our community members to be able to get these good paying jobs. And so if you are interested in attending and getting more information, please call our office at 314-955-9980, 314-955-9980. And then also, let me say, I secured $1 million for the UAW Labor Employment and Training Corporation in St. Louis. It's for job training in the automotive services industry. For our youth, I secured community project funding for trades workforce training in St. Louis public school systems, because how many of us, know that that job training is not in all of our schools anymore, and not everybody is not on the track to go directly from high school to college. Some people want to go to work immediately following, or they need to go to work, and so we want to make sure that those that people are ready. I also support funding for federal programs like Job Corps and other workforce initiatives. Every year I make sure that the appropriations priorities that I convey to the Appropriations Committee, that they include billions of dollars for job training. So, okay, I know we need to, I'm not sure what time we need to stop, but we'll keep going. Let's keep going, Marina.
Perfect. Okay, I think we have time to squeeze in maybe two more questions. And again, we will be sure to answer all the other questions as soon as possible. Our next question is from Sarah. Any plans to stop all the purchasing of single-family homes for short-term rentals?
So, Sarah, look, these issues are top of mind as we continue to work to explore solutions to the affordable housing crisis. We know that after the recession, private equity firms purchased large numbers of foreclosed homes, and this trend, it continues to worsen in our communities even now, buying up whole streets. And it's happening all over the country. So I'm proud to support the bicameral end hedge fund control of American Homes Act. This legislation, it will ban hedge funds and all other investors from owning large numbers of homes. And to rein in those short-term rentals, I fully support the city of St. Louis in their efforts to regulate Airbnb and to require owners to be registered and that they are subject to oversight. So we'll work hard to keep implementing policies, and we'll work hard on the federal level to keep our homes in the hands of the people of St. Louis and not corporations. I'm trying to keep them short. Okay, do I have time for one more?
Yep, I think we have time for one more. And so this question is from Jennifer. What can you do to help with immigration backlog or African immigrants getting benefits?
Okay, Jennifer, thank you for the question. I'm going to try to do this. I think I have 60 seconds or so. We know our immigration system should be equitable, it should be effective, it should be humane, there should be consistency of information and access to benefits. But we need to adequately fund USCIS, the State Department, and other units of the federal government that are responsible for processing immigration cases in order to address the visa backlogs. Like, we need to roll over unused immigration visas, and we got to recapture those unused family and those employment-based immigration visas. They go all the way back. They're like 1992 to 2002. So we need to reopen the applications of diversity visa lottery winners that were formerly denied entry by the travel bans or by COVID-19. We need to fully expand lawful pathways like the temporary protected status at TPS or the deferred enforced departure and humanitarian parole. So that's why I have supported legislation and letters that would enact these policies among so many others. But again, the reason we can't get this done is Republicans' refusal to consider real solutions as opposed to the demonization of immigrants. And so I'm also especially I'm sensitive to the struggles faced by African immigrants. You know, many are fleeing violence or persecution, humanitarian crisis, and so many other issues. Yet they're often the ones that are mostly discriminated against in the immigration system, which has often overlooked black folks and brown folks who want to come to this country. So we need to do more to make sure that we're being equitable in our immigration processing systems. And so that's why I'm proud to support our local organizations like the International Institute of St. Louis, which does this life-saving work. And so I'll continue to advocate and push for funding for organizations. And my casework team is ready to work with any constituents who are having problems receiving immigration benefits. So please get that information out. Please call our office. Even if you think, well, nobody can help me, someone said they can't help me, please call our office and let us do the work to help.
All righty. So I think we might be able to have time for one more final question, a bonus question, if you will. So last question is from Nishi. What is the Congresswoman doing about the criminalization of HIV, and how is the Congresswoman inviting local organizations to contribute to finding solutions to issues of health equity? Great question.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Nisha, for the question. So here locally, I'll start there. I secured $850,000 in community project funding for Doorways. It's an organization that provides that direct support for those living with HIV in St. Louis. They just built a beautiful new building, and it's to help them in as they were renovating the Cooper House Assisted Living Facility for people living with HIV who are unable to live independently. I have consistently supported the Ryan White HIV and AIDS program to ensure that all HIV patients have access to health care regardless of their income levels. And my team works closely with Dr. Barrett, the medical director of the HIV clinic at Washington University School of Medicine, to support HIV patients in St. Louis. HIV research and treatment is a priority for me. This year, during the appropriations process, I did sign a letter with many of my colleagues to chair and ranking member of the Appropriations Committee, urging them to provide this. You know, we need robust funding for domestic HIV and AIDS programs. And they did. They negotiated that legislation to fund the federal government for the current fiscal year. So we need to continue to support the needs of HIV patients everywhere, especially in St. Louis. So that's why, you know, every year I will be making sure that we continue to push this with the appropriators to bring that funding directly to the people who need it the most. And if you have any organizations or groups that are doing that work as well that are local, please connect them to our office. Call our phone number, our office number at 314-955-9980, and let us know what you are doing, because we use what our constituents are saying that they are doing in the community, or we're hearing your voices, and we use that to inform how we direct funds to St. Louis, but also how we inform legislation. When I say I brought St. Louis with me to Congress, I did.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much, Congresswoman, and thank you everyone for being on the call. We are at time. Again, any questions that we were unable to get to, please know that a member of our team is going to do our best to follow up. You can also leave a voicemail after the event here, or, of course, call our office at any time. Again, I'll say our number, 314-955-9980. So just to close this out, we want to make sure that our office is reaching you in the best way possible. So before we close, we have one final poll question, and that is, how can you stay connected with the office of Congresswoman Cori Bush? So press 1 for subscribing to our newsletter, press 2 for following us on social media, press 3 for visiting our website, bush.house.gov, press 4 for calling our office, or press 5 for all of the above. Again, how do you stay up to date with the office of Congresswoman Cori Bush? Press 1 for subscribing to our newsletter, 2, following us on social media, 3, visiting our website, bush.house.gov, 4, calling our office, 5, all of the above. Thank you all so much again for joining our town hall. It was a pleasure, and we hope to hear from you soon. Take care, St. Louis.